Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Babel on Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Ayin Gimel of Masechta Shabbis. What's cool about today's Daf is that we finally get on to Avos Melakhos Abayim Chaser Achas. Right? We are going to list the 39 melakhos today, which is exciting. Let's do a quick overview before we begin. Okay, the Gemara starts off with some more of that similar machlokas that we had from yesterday, Abaye and Rava, about when you intend to do one melacha, but when you intend to do an activity in a permissible way and you end up doing it in a forbidden way. So what happens if you intended to throw something in Rosh Hashanah 2 amos? That's okay, but you end up throwing it 4 amos, which isn't okay. Or what if you thought you were in Rosh Hayachid, but Lamaisa you were in Rosh Hashanah? Then we're going to get into the new Mishnah, which is going to list all 39 of the melakhos, which is exciting. And then we basically start breaking down these melakhos and talking about them. So that's going to be on the second half of today's daf. Let's get started. So Daf Ayin Gimel Amud Aleph, about probably like 10 lines into the page already. Itmar. So Idmar, of course, always means that it's a statement of Amoraim. So if a person intended to throw something in Rosh Hashanah 2 amos, however, he ended up throwing it 4 amos, okay, i.e., he intended to do something permissible, right, to throw something 2 amos is okay. However, he ended up doing something that would be considered a melacha. He threw it 4 amos. So Rava Amar Pater, Abaye Amar Chayev. So Rava says he's pater for doing this. Abaye says that he is chayav for doing this. Rava Amar Pater to lo kamichaven lezrika da'arba. Rava says he's pater because look, l'maisa, at the end of the day, his intention was not to throw 4 amos. His intention was to throw 2 amos, which is permissible. So therefore, since he intended to do something permissible and he ended up doing something asur, so it's ki'ilu like misasek, right? He was busy doing a permissible thing, and then something not permissible happened. Similar to when he was intending to cut something that was already removed from the ground, but he ended up cutting something that was connected to the ground. Abaye Amar Chayev Deha Kamichav in the Zrika Ba'alma. Abaye says that he's going to be chayev because look, he intended to throw something, and he did throw something. So he's going to be chayev for that, just like he says that he will be chayev for when he intends to cut something that's separate from the ground and he cuts something that's connected to the ground. Because what happens if he thought he was in Rosh Hashanah? So he threw something Daled Amos, but in the end, it turns out he was in Rosh Hashanah. So he thought he was doing something mutter, but in the end, he was doing something else. Rava Amar Pater, Abaye Amar Chayev. Rava said he's going to be Pater for this, whereas Abaye says he's going to be Chayev for this. Rava Amar Pater, Deha Lo Michaven Lezuka D'Isura. Rava says he's Pater because look, his intention was not to throw this, to do something asur, right? To throw Daled Amos Rosh Hashanah. That was not his intention. His intention was to throw Daled Amos Rosh Hashanah. Therefore, it is permitted. Therefore, he's Pater. Abaye Amar Chayev Deha Kamichaven Lezuka Ba'alma. Abaye says it's chayev because look, he intended to throw something, and he threw something, and he did it in an asur way. Therefore, he's going to be chayev a korban chatos. Sure, he didn't intentionally want to, do a melacha on Shabbos. That's why he's not chayev kares. But he did make a mistake. He was a shogeg, so therefore he's chayev a korban chatos. Weiter, utzricha. Now the Gemara is going to explain why we needed all 3 of these examples. Example number 1 being when you intended to cut something that was separate from the ground, but you cut, or something that was detached from the ground, but you cut something attached to the ground. Case number 2, when you intended to throw 2 amos, but you threw 4 amos. And then example number 3, when you thought that you were throwing 4 amos in Rosh Hashanah, but the fact of the matter is you were throwing 4 amos in Rosh Hashanah. Fine. So we need all 3 of these examples. Because if we would only have the case of when you intended to cut something detached from the ground, but ended up cutting something attached to the ground, Be'ahuka Amar Rava. So in that case, Rava will say that you're pater. Over there, he didn't have any intention to do something asur. And something, and then things just kind of went completely, against his plans. Is that the right way to say it? Completely against his plans or unplanned, whatever it is. So his intention was to cut something that was detached from the ground. And then something, somehow everything got messed up. And what ended up happening was he cut something attached to the ground. So in that case, Rava will say that he's pater because things, got totally messed up. Aval niskaven is okshtayim v'zarak arba. The arba below tarte lo mizrika le ema modile le'abai. However, I could argue that in the case where he intended to throw something 2 amos and he ended up throwing it 4 amos, where at the end of the day, what he wanted to do, he did, right? Because in order to throw something 4 amos, you have to throw it 2 amos. So in this case, his initial intention was fulfilled. So I might argue that even though, sure, he didn't intend to throw it as far as he did, but he did intend to throw it 2 amos, and he did lemaisa throw it 2 amos. Not only that, he threw it more than 2 amos, he threw it 4 amos. So in that case, maybe Rava would agree with Abaye that he'd be chayiv, because at the end of the day, his initial intention was executed. So that is why Rava needs to say that, nope, even when he intended to throw 2 amos and he threw 4 amos, he's still pater. Yashmin on biha, and if we would only have, these 2 cases, so biha ka'amar Rava, so in this case, Rava says that he's pater, dohat lo kamichavin lezrika de arba. But I could still argue that in the case where he intended to throw 2 amos and he threw 4 amos, fine, so Rava says he's pater, but maybe that's also just because at the end of the day, his intention was not to throw 4 amos, right? The problem with throwing something, it's right, basically the same thing as carrying something 4 amos in Rosh Hashanah. So the problem with throwing something is going to be 4 amos, right? If you intend to throw it 4 amos, it's going to be a problem. But, so I can argue that in the previous case, however, he didn't even intend to throw it 4 amos. At the end of the day, all he intended to do is throw it 2 amos. But in the last case, he intended to throw it 4 amos. He just thought that he was in Rishus HaYachid. Right? So, lo kamchaven lezrika de arba, aval kesaver Rishus HaYachid v'imtza Rishus HaRabim. But in the final case, where he thinks that he's in Rishus HaYachid, but the fact of the matter is he's in Rishus HaRabim, the michaven lezrika de arba, where his intention was, in fact, to throw it 4 amos, he just thought that he was in Rishus HaYachid, ema modile le'abaye tzricha. I might think that maybe in that case, Rava would agree with Abaye that he's going to be chayav. Nope. In all 3 cases, Rava says that our friend would be pater. Okay, fine. Let's go weiter. Tnan avos melakhos abayim chasarachas. No, so our Mishnah, finally it's not this random theoretical Mishnah. It's a Mishnah that we're going to learn in just a few minutes. The Mishnah says that there are 39 melakhos. V'avinan ba, and of course, we're going to ask in the Gemara, the first line of the Gemara is going to ask, Minyan alamali, how come we need the Mishnah to tell us it's 39? Why can't I just count? Actually, I did count. Anybody who's looking at the video, actually, you can see that I made a tally of all the melakhos. Just wanted to make sure. Well, I was kind of curious if all 39 were there. In any event, anybody who's not looking at the video, you can ask the people who did see the video. Anyways, so, where were we? So, the Gemara asks, so why can't we just count and see if there are 39? How come the Mishnah has to tell us that there are 39? The Amr Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan said, Shemasa and Kula behelam echad, that the point of saying that there are 39 of them is to teach us that if you did all 39 melakhos in one he'elem, so then you would be chayav akol achas v'achas, you would be chayav 39 times. Now, bishlam Abaye, so I understand Abaye's mahalach. I understand Abaye's opinion, which that, when you thought you were doing, something that was, when you thought that you were doing an activity in a mutter way, but by accident you ended up doing it in a forbidden way. He says that you be chayav a korban chatas, Well, great, right? That's great. So I understand how I could do 39 melakhos and make a mistake with them. And as Rashi points out, because every single malacha has some kind of a shiur, some kind of a measure, right? So, I know all the 39, I know it's Shabbos, I know that all these 39 activities are asr. I also, not only do I know that they're asr, I also know at what point they become asr, and until what point they would be considered mutter. And I did all 39 of them, and I intended to do each one of the 39 in the permissible way, and I messed up with every single one. Oy vey, right? And I did all of them by accident in a forbidden way. So I'd have to bring 39 korbanos. I get it. Right? So I understand, according to Abaye, who says that when you intended to do these things in a mutter way and you accidentally did them in an asr way, you'd have to bring a korban chata. So mishkachas la. So I understand how you would bring 39 korbanos for 39 melakhos be'elam achas. The yada the isurei Shabbos, because he knew that it was Shabbos. V'yada la isur melachos, and he knew that all 39 of these were melachos. V'kata b'shiurin. He just made a mistake when it came to their amount. He thought he was doing them in a mutter way, but he did it in an asr way. El Rava damar pater. But according to Rava, who says that in all of these cases, you would be pater from having to bring a korban, well then, heichi mishkachas la. Well then, how do you find a situation where you would bring 39 korbanos for these 39 shogegs? So it would have to be B'zadin Shabbos v'shigagas melachos. Well, it would have to be when you know that it's Shabbos, but you didn't realize that these things were melachos. Okay? Hanicha isavrla Rabbi Yochanan. Okay, well this makes sense if you hold like Rabbi Yochanan, the Amar Kemesh Shagag B'chares, Afal Pi Sheizid B'lav. Right? I understand if we assume like Rabbi Yochanan, who says that even if you knew that these 39 melachos were asr, and you did them anyways, knowing that they're asr, but you didn't realize was that you'd be chayiv kares for doing them. And Rabbi Yochanan says that it's okay, you can still be considered shogeg for that, and you'd bring a korban. So I understand how we would bring 39 korbanos. So mishkachas la diyadu la l'Shabbos bilav. So I understand what it means that you knew that it was Shabbos, but you were shogeg regarding the 39 melachos, i.e., you knew it was Shabbos, you knew these 39 melachos were asr. What you didn't realize was that you'd be chayiv kares for him. So, okay, so you did them, you didn't realize you would be chayiv kares, you bring 39 korbanos. Eli isavla Rabbi Shimon ben Lakish. But if you hold like Rish Lakish, that who says that in order to be able to bring a korban chatas, you have to not only know that you'd be chayiv kares, but you have to not even know that these things were not allowed at all. So if that's the case, right, that it's like Rava, that in a situation where you intended to do a melacha in a permissible way, but you ended up doing it in a forbidden way, you'd be pater from a korban. And if we hold like Rish Lakish, right, who says that in order to be chayiv a korban, you have to not even know that these things are asr. So then what does it mean? And of course, this is a question that we've seen already twice before, right? So what does it mean that he knew that it was Shabbos, but he didn't realize that these things were melachos? What does it mean that he knew it was Shabbos if he didn't even know of any of the 39 melachos? What makes it Shabbos? What makes it any different than any other day of the week? So, Diyadullah the Shabbos b'mai. So the Gemara answers, Diyadullah b'tchumin v'alibidu Rabbi Akiva. He knew about one halacha of Shabbos. And that one halacha is tchumin, that you're not allowed to walk more than 2,000 amos outside of a city on Shabbos. And it's like Rabbi Akiva, who says that it's midoraisa, yet nonetheless you wouldn't be chayiv to bring a korban chatas for it. It's not counted as one of the 39. And that is what you knew. So you knew it was Shabbos, i.e., you knew that you shouldn't walk more than 2,000 amos, but you had no clue about the other 39 melachos, and you ended up doing them, so you would bring a korban chatas for those 39. Okie dokie. New Mishnah. Avos melachos arbaim chasar achas. There are 39 melachos. Hazorea v'achoresh. Okay, so zorea is somebody who plants, puts seeds in the ground. V'achoresh, somebody who plows the ground. Okay. V'akotzer, somebody who harvests. V'ama'amer, somebody who harvests a bunch of stuff and then puts it in a pile. So that's ma'amer, putting it in a pile. V'adash, somebody who threshes like wheat. or other things. Ve'azore, somebody who winnows, like throws it up in the air so that all the stuff that you don't want flies away and you keep the stuff that you do want. Haborer, somebody who selects the bad from the good. Hatochen, somebody who grinds. Ve'amrakid, somebody who sifts. Ve'alash, and kneading. Ve'ofe, and baking. Hagozes, somebody who shears wool. Hagozes atzemer, somebody who shears wool. Hamalabno, somebody who whitens it. Ve'amenapzo, somebody who beats it. Ve'atzovo, somebody who dyes it. Ve'atove, and spinning the wool into threads. Ve'amesach, okay, now we're getting into weaving stuff. So somebody who mounts the warp. Now, I have included in WhatsApp, in sort of the description, in the description of today's shir, sort of just a photo of like a page in the art scroll where you can see kind of like weaves and stuff like that. So, and it also describes it's a pretty good thing to read. I hope that the photo is clear enough that you can actually read it. It's probably worthwhile to read their description of how these weaves work, because it's probably also going to be helpful to understand that in the future. But mesach means to mount the warp. Okay, a weave has warp threads and weft threads. Okay, warp threads are these like vertical threads that don't move, and the weft then gets like, zigzags between these threads in order to weave a fabric. So mesach is setting up the warp threads. Ve'ose shtei batei nirin. Okay, now shtei batei nirin are, okay, so basically, so you'd have the warp threads and you'd have the weft threads. And then what you would do is, you would have these two harnesses in the weave and in the loom, I guess. And what you would do is, 50% of the threads, let's say the even threads would go through one of these harnesses, and the odd threads would go through the other one of these harnesses. What you do is you would lift one up, and I guess have the other one lower, and then you would just be able to throw the weft through the, threads, which are one up, one down. Then you would do the opposite. You would put the ones that were down, you put them up, the ones that were up, you put them down, then you would throw the weft again, and like that you'd be able to zigzag between the alternate threads. So basically, va'osa shtei batei nirin means once you put two threads through these harnesses, so that's a melacha. Va'oreg shnei chutin, somebody who weaves two threads, meaning if you throw the weft through the loom twice. Ve'apotzea shnei chutin, somebody who cuts, I guess if there was extra thread you would cut it. So somebody who does that. Hakosher ve'amatir, somebody who ties a knot, somebody who unties a knot. Ve'atofer shtei tfiris, somebody who sews two stitches. Hakorea amanas litfor shtei tfiris, somebody who tears something so that he can then stitch two stitches. Hatzad tzvi, somebody who traps a deer. Hashochto, somebody who shechts it. Ve'mafshito, somebody who removes the hide. Ve'hamolcho, somebody who salts it. I think salting the hide, I think. Ve'ma'abed is oro, somebody who tans the hide. Ve'amemachko, somebody who smooths it by removing the hair. Ve'amechatcho, and somebody who cuts it up into like strips of leather. Hakosev shtei osius, somebody who writes two letters. Ve'amochek amanas lichtov shtei osius, so somebody who erases so that he can then write letters, two letters. Habona, somebody who builds. Ve'asoser, somebody who destroys. Dismantles. Okay. Hamchabe, somebody who extinguishes. Ve'amavir, somebody who kindles. Hamake bepatish. Make bepatish is the final blow of a melacha, right? And as Rashi points out at the very end of the page, umasnisen nami lo michayiv le'ela b'gmar melacha. That I think what it means is that like all of these melachas, you only chayiv if you do the complete melacha, right? So the Gemar melacha is always going to, the completion of the melacha is always going to be what's referred to as the makeh b'patish, the final blow of the hammer, right, to render this thing complete. Hamotzim rishus l'rishus, and of course, as we are deeply familiar with at this point, somebody taking something out from one domain to another domain. Harei elu avos melachos habayim chasar achas. These are the 39 melakhos. Frag the Gemara. The Gemara wants to know, Manana Lamali, how come the Mishnah had to tell us that there are 39 melakhos? Can't I just count them? Rabbi Yochanan, Shemasan Kulam Behelam Echad, Chayav Kol Achas V'Achas. So Rabbi Yochanan says, well, because it's teaching us something. What it's teaching us is that if you made a mistake and did all of them in one helam without realizing in between, so you would have to bring 39 korbanos, one korban for each melacha that you did. Hazorea ve'achoresh. So somebody who plants, somebody who plows. Michdei. The Gemara wants to know, wait a second, aren't those out of order? Mechayev karbe bereisha. Don't you normally first plow and then you would put the seeds in the ground? So therefore, lesne choresh v'hadar lesne zorea. Why don't you first? Why don't we just keep things in order? Shouldn't it first teach plowing and then teach seeding? Tana Beretz Yisrael koi. Aha. So the author of the Mishnah was in Israel. Desari bereisha v'hadar karbe, that they first seed and then they plow. Rashi says because the land in Eretz Yisrael is very hard, and therefore it's hard to cover over the seeds without using a plow. You have to use a plow just to cover over the seeds and get them into the ground. So therefore, I guess they would first seed and then they would plow them into the ground. So that is why the Mishnah said first seeding and then plowing. Tana, we learn in a Brisa, Zorea. Okay, somebody who puts a seed in the ground. Ve'azomer, somebody who prunes, like a grapevine, so that it grows better. Ve'anotea, somebody who puts a seed in the ground. So the difference is that Zorea is by Zraim, is by plants, whereas Notea is by trees. Okay? So putting a seed a plant seed in the ground is Zorea, putting a tree seed in the ground is Notea. Ve'amavrich ve'amarkiv. So mavrich is if you take a branch from a tree and you, I'm not an expert, but maybe someone is. Let us know. But if you take a branch from a tree and while it's still connected to the tree, you stick it in the ground so that it could start taking root. That would be mavrich. And markiv is if you take a branch from a different tree and stick it into this tree, also I guess so that it can affect the growing. So, and that would be some kind of grafting. So, kula melacha achasein, they're all the same melacha. They're all zorea. How come? Because what's zorea? Zorea, the goal ultimately is to get this thing to grow. So, and that's what's happening on all of these. Even pruning, where you're not planting anything, you're just cutting off unneeded branches. But still, the goal there is so that it will grow better and grow more. So therefore, they're all considered zorea. The only difference here being that pruning, right, zomer, is going to be a tolada of zorea. But interestingly, all of these other ones, notea, mavrich, markiv, these are all avos melakhos of zorea, right? Meaning the way, in my mind, how I was kind of thinking of it, is we're actually going to see later on in the page. So for example, there's kotzer, there's botzer, there's masik, right? Kotzer is harvesting wheat. Botzer is harvesting grapes. Masik is harvesting olives. Meaning it's all harvesting. It's all going to be the same av melacha. These aren't tolados of harvesting. These are all just avos melachos, but one's for grapes, one's for olives, So here also, keilu, even though, let's say something like notea isn't one of the 39 melachos, zorea is, but notea is the same thing as zorea, just that it's for trees. And I guess we would say the same thing for mavrich and markiv. It's interesting to me that those aren't considered tolados, those are considered avos melachos as well. But okay. Fine. My kamash malan, what's this brisa teaching us by saying that they're all the same? Ha kamash malan is teaching us the following, which is ha'osa melachos harbe me'ei melacha achas enu chayav ela achas. Somebody who does several melachos, but they're all the same family of melachos, right? And then you even have avos and tolados in there, right? You have zorea and you have zomer. Nonetheless, you're only going to be chayav one korban since they are me'ein melacha achas. They're all the same family of korbanis, of melachos. Amar Rabbi Acha, it says Rabbi Acha, Amar Rabbi Chia bar Ashi, Amar Rabbi Ami, Zomer, okay, if somebody prunes, Chayiv Mishum Notea, okay, somebody who prunes, which is a Tolada, so Chayiv Mishum Notea is going to be Chayiv for Notea, okay, for putting a seed for a tree, I guess, okay. So I guess that maybe notea applies to grapevines. Okay. Okay. And these things, right? Notea, putting a tree seed in the ground, and mavrich, which was putting that branch into the ground, v'markiv, putting like a branch into the tree. So chayiv mishum zorea, all of these are chayiv for zorea. The Gemara wants to know, mishum zorea in, mishum notea lo. 1 second. Mavrich and markiv are davka, you're going to be chayiv for notea, but not for zorea. Ema af mishum zorea, I'll say even for zorea. Okay, but since these are things that have to do with trees, so they're more directly connected to notea, but at the end of the day, it's all the same. It all links back to what the Mishnah referred to as zorea. Okay, Seder. Amr of Kahana, says of Kahana, Zomer v'tzarich le'etzim. This is interesting. What if you prune some branches away from a grapevine? Okay. Now, we already said that pruning is a tolada of notea. No, of zorea. Well, both, I guess. So on the one hand, you'd be chayiv for zorea, right? However, because you actually want these things that you're pruning away so you can burn them in a fire, well, chayiv shtayim. In this case, you're going to be chayiv twice. Achas mishum kotzer, v'achas mishum notea. One for kotzer, for harvesting, because you're actually, removing these branches and collecting them, so you're harvesting them for use in your fire. And you're also going to be chayiv for notea, because you're also, this, what's it called? This grape, you're pruning the grapevine so that it grows better. Amr of Yosef, I'm on the kotal aspasta. Somebody who reaps aspasta. Does anybody know what aspasta is? Alfalfa. Isn't that interesting? Anyways, I actually Googled alfalfa, and it is, they look kind of like sprouts, or I guess you make them into sprouts or something. So chayiv shtayim, so you're going to be chayiv twice. Achas mishum kotzer, achas mishum notea. One for harvesting, because you're, harvesting these sprouts so you can eat them, but you'll also be chayiv mishum notea, because they are going to grow better now. Amar Abaye, haman de kniv silka, somebody who kind of removes leaves from a beet that is in the ground. Chayiv shtayim, achas mishum kotzer, achas mishum zorea, is going to be chayiv twice. One for harvesting these leaves, I guess you probably want to eat them, and one for zorea, because you are, these leaves are, I guess, going to grow back. Okie dokie. Ve'achoresh, somebody who plows. Tana, we learn in a brayso, achoresh, somebody who plows. Ve'achofer, somebody who digs a hole. Ve'achoretz, somebody who makes a furrow. Okay. Kulam melacha achas hein, they're all the same melacha. Okay. Amr of Sheishes, Haisalo gav shushis vinatla, if you had a little mound of dirt and you remove this mound of dirt on Shabbos, so if this mound of dirt was in your house, so it would be interestingly considered boneh, building, because I guess you're fixing the floor. If this was in the field, well, then you will be chayev for choresh. And as Rashi says, because the goal of choresh is to soften the ground so that it is better for planting. So so in the field, when you remove this mound, it is going to have the effect of softening the ground, and that would be considered choresh. Amar Rava, harselo guma. Rava says if you had a hole in the ground, vitimima, and you filled it in with some softer, earth. So babai is chayiv mishum boneh. If it's in the house, you're going to be chayiv for boneh, because you're, kind of building your floor. Besada mishum choresh. And if it was out in the field, you would be chayiv for plowing, because you're filling this hole with soft earth that you'll be able to put seeds in it. Amar Rabbi Abba, hachofer guma b'Shabbos v'notzarich ela la'afra. Interesting. Somebody who digs a hole in the ground on Shabbos. But here's the thing. Melacha she'eina tzricha legufa. Who remembers what a melacha she'eina tzricha legufa is? Everybody. Why am I even asking? Obviously, everybody remembers what a melacha she'eina tzricha legufa is. Right? Does extinguishing wicks ring a bell? Right? What happens if you extinguish a flame on Shabbos? Now, you're not interested in extinguishing a flame on Shabbos. You have no benefit. You have no, you don't gain anything by extinguishing this flame. It's not like, oh, I really need to extinguish this flame right now because I'm going to, get some kind of added value by doing that. Why are you extinguishing this flame then? Oh, because your candle is getting ruined. And, you're extinguishing this flame so that, some other reason, so that this candle doesn't get ruined, right? So here also, you are digging this hole. You're not digging this hole because you want to put a seed in there, or because, you want to soften the ground. No, you're digging this hole because you just need the dirt, right? As Rashi says, I think it was Rashi says that lechasos tsoa, right? I don't know, maybe you went to the bathroom and you need to cover it up, right? Or maybe it's not necessarily referring to excrement, maybe just anything dirty that you have to cover up, right? So in this case, you're not putting a hole in the ground because you want a hole in the ground, because you want a seed or anything like that. No, you're putting a hole in the ground just because you need dirt, so that you could take the dirt and use it. So says the Gemara, Amar Rabbi Abba Chofer Guma b'Shabbos, somebody who digs a hole on Shabbos, but ve'enot tzarich ela la'afra, you're digging this hole just because you need the dirt. Pater alea, you are going to be pater. Va'afilu l'Rabbi Yehuda, now, even according to Rabbi Yehuda, who generally holds that melacha she'ena tzricha legufa, you would be chayav for. But that would only be when it's misaken, when you are actually fixing something. But this is mekalkel. You're basically ruining the floor of your house, or you're basically digging a hole. You're like making something worse. So therefore, even Rabbi Yehuda, who generally holds of melacha she'ena tzricha legufa is chayav, here he will say you are pater. Fine. Ve'akotzer, somebody who harvests. Tana, we learn in the Brayso. Akotzer, somebody who harvests, let's say, wheat. Habotzer, somebody who harvests grapes. Ve'agoder, somebody who harvests dates. Ve'amasik, somebody who harvests olives. Ve'aore, and somebody who harvests figs. Kulam melacha achas. Well, they happen to all be the same melacha. I think that makes sense. They're basically just harvesting but they're called different things for different fruits. Okay? Amar Papa. Haiman deshada fisa ledikla. Somebody who throws some dung into a palm tree. Okay? So the palm tree, I assume it doesn't have to be dung. I assume like anything sort of hard that you can throw into like the branches of the palm tree to try and knock down a few dates. So v'asar tamre, and some dates fell down. Chayiv shtaim is chayiv twice. Achas mishum tolesh v'achas mishum mefarik. One for tolesh, right? For separating something from the tree, which would be a tolada of harvesting, and the other one for what do we say? For mefarik, for separating something from something else, which is like similar to dash. Dash is threshing. It's like separating the wheat from its the ears that it's in, or whatever it's called. So here also you're separating the date from the cluster that it was in. Zeu. So Rav Papa says you're going to be chayiv twice for that. Now, Rav Ashi Amar. So again, just to review Papa, so you'd be chayiv once for tolesh, which is a tolada of kotzer, and you'd be chayiv also from a farik, which is a tolada of dash. Now, Rav Ashi Amar, in derech tlisha b'chach, Rav Ashi says, this isn't derech tlisha b'chach, ve'in derech prika b'chach. Rav Ashi says this is kila achar yad. This is not the normal way that you would, that you would like harvest something. This is not the normal way that you would thresh something, and therefore it's kila achar yad. And sure, it might not be allowed on Shabbos milchatchila, but it's going to be pater aval aser. Weiter, friends. V'amaimer, somebody who brings what he harvested into a pile. Amarava, Haiman dechanef milcha mimalchisa, chayv mishum ma'amer. So Rava says that if you go, interestingly, right, I guess that to make salt, I don't know if this is how they make salt nowadays, but they would take like seawater, which is salty, and they would kind of funnel it off to some area, and then they would let the sun dry it out, and you'd be left with salt. So if somebody goes and collects some of this salt, so that would basically be me'amer. Abaye Amar and imor ela begidulei karka. Me'amer, gathering into a pile, is only by things that grow from the ground. This salt doesn't grow from the ground, it's just from dried out seawater. Ve'adash, somebody who threshes. Tana, we learn in the Brisa, adash, somebody who threshes. Ve'amenapetz, somebody who kind of hits flax to separate the flax from its stalk, I guess. Ve'amenapet, and somebody who does this activity with cotton in order to remove the seeds from it. Kulam melacha achas, saying they're all the same melacha of dash. Okay, well, that was daf Ayin Gimel. Cool daf, right? Let us review. So we started off the daf with, a continuation of the concept of like when you intended to do something in a permissible way, but you did it in a forbidden way. So if somebody intended to throw 2 amos, but he ended up throwing 4 amos, so Rava says he's pater. Abai says that he's chayav korban chatas. If somebody intended to throw 4 amos, but in Rishus Hayachid, but it ended up that he happened to be in Rishus Harabim and he didn't realize. So Rava says that he would be pater, and Abai says that he would be chayiv. Then we said, how come we needed all 3 of these cases? And we said because each one kind of builds on the next. The first case that we had yesterday, which is when you thought that you were cutting something that was disconnected from the ground, but you cut something connected to the ground. So in there, like Ki'ilu, his plans just kind of got all messed up and he didn't even do what he intended to do. So therefore, in that case, maybe I would understand why Rava says pater, right? But in a case where he intended to throw 2 amos and he threw 4 amos, where he actually did what he was set out to do. He intended to throw 2 amos and he did throw 2 amos. He threw 4 amos, which includes 2 amos. So maybe there Rava would say chayiv. And then even in that case, once we know that he says pater, maybe I'll say it's over there. But if I intended to throw 4 amos, which is the melacha of, what melacha that you'd be doing when you throw something, 4 amos, but it just happened to be that you thought you were in Rishus Hayachid, so maybe over there, since you kind of did the melacha of throwing, which is 4 amos, maybe he would admit to Abai that you'd be chayiv. That's why we needed that case as well, to show that Rava says he's pater there as well. We got to the new Mishnah, where we listed all 39 melakhos. We finally saw in its correct place this statement of Rav Yochanan that to say that we need the number 39 to tell us that you'd be chayiv 39 korbanos if you do them behelamachas. We had then a few cases of how you can do one melacha and yet one activity and be chayiv 2 melachos. Rav Kahana told us that if you prune a grapevine but you want the wood, so you'll be chayiv both for notea as well as for harvesting. Rav Yosef says that if you harvest alfalfa, you will be chayiv also for harvesting as well as for growing, for notea. Abai says if you cut beet leaves, then you will be chayiv also for zorea as well as for harvesting. We then had another case later on where if you take some dung or something and you throw it into a cluster of dates on a date tree and some dates fall down, so Rav Papa wanted to argue that you'd be chayiv for both mifarek and for tolesh, but Rav Ashi argued that no, that's not the normal way that you do these things, therefore it would be pater of al-aser. We talked about somebody who digs a hole in the ground, but he doesn't want to be digging a hole, he really just needs dirt. So that would be a melacha she'eina tzricha legufa, and even Rabbi Yehuda, who generally says melacha she'eina tzricha legufa is chayav, he would nonetheless say it's pater because it's mikalkel, he's doing a destructive act. Okay, those were kind of the highlights, I think, of today's daf. I hope everybody enjoyed it. Have a great day, great night, whatever. Peace.